Welcome back to my channel. If you guys don't know me, my name is Brooke and I'm a full-time reseller on the Whatnot app where you can buy, sell, go live. In my last live stream show, I was talking with a lot of the viewers who are also sellers, and I let them know that I was looking for some guidance on what type of YouTube content they would want about Whatnot. So I had them ask me some questions I'm going to go over and answer them the best I can. Just remember, this is my personal advice. I'm still figuring things out myself on my own business, so just take this info with a grain of salt. I screenshotted as many questions as I could. Probably missed a few because it was live streaming and I was trying to screenshot them as I went. If you have any other questions that I don't answer in this video, feel free to leave them in the comments and I will make another video about them here soon. This first question from this user was, can I start with an overabundance of clothing that is in my house? Absolutely. I actually started out on Whatnot selling all pre-owned thrifted clothing from my closet and from my previous inventory from other selling sites such as eBay, Poshmark, Mercari. I could not afford pallets in the beginning, so I took all my inventory from those marketplaces and I started running those, and that is how I eventually built up to selling new attack liquidation pallets. But sustainable fashion is huge right now. It's such a big market. I think new attack clothing definitely gets more money on Whatnot. That could change in the future as Whatnot grows. I did start out that way and I was able to make money and be super successful and save up to start buying pallets. There are a lot of sellers on Whatnot who do sell thrifted clothing full time and they do really well. I just know that I only did it for the first few months on Whatnot and I was able to sell my whole inventory within the first few weeks of being on Whatnot. Starting by selling stuff around your house is always the best option. You will make more money the lower cost of goods you have. There's a lot of potential there. If your cost of goods are zero by just selling stuff in your house to start out, it is amazing. Nothing to lose. Just go ahead and try it and let me know how that goes. Great question. Let's move on to the next one. Next user asked, do you think sitting in front of the camera showing your face is better for ratings than behind the camera? This is a great question. And honestly, I can't tell you I know 100%. For my business, I like to have a face to my name. I've built my business that way. I do think it's easier to build a connection with your audience when you're showing your face. That is just personal preference. There are sellers that are very successful just streaming behind the scenes and behind the camera. If you are comfortable enough to go in front of the camera, I do suggest that because that is a better way to build a connection with your audience. Another question I had, they asked, how do you keep people in your shows who always have the same belief? There are people making tons of money in smaller shows and tons of money in bigger shows. Not technically the viewer number you need. Completely understand if you're just starting out and you need as much exposure as you can. So I'm going to go over a few ways to get people into your show. You want to be promoting on social media as much as you can about selling on Whatnot. There are a lot of different ways sellers go about advertising their shows. Be inside the app, just make sure you ask the seller before you promote their show. There are a lot of sellers that would prefer you to ask. So it's always good etiquette to ask in other shows, but just know you're always welcome to come into my show and shout out your shows. But the best way I always want to tell people is sometimes it's best to just interact with chat. Going in and interacting and hanging out, showing your personality, it's going to get you more followers and more traction for your first show than any, show promotion would be. If you just came in and dropped your show, you might get a couple of people, but I can tell you the lasting friendships, people who will be there at your show every time, those relationships were built by just being myself. Really cool people on the Whatnot app, you will see a couple of them didn't start selling until a year after being on Whatnot, and they had built up thousands of followers just from supporting and hanging out in chat. They weren't even a seller at the time, but they built up so many followers just from being themselves and hanging out and showing their personality. That's one way to go out about it. The best way to go about it, which is how I got my boost on Whatnot when I first started, was to post outside of the app on any social media: TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest. There are so many ways to market yourself, and I know it can be a pain and it's so much work when reselling is a full-time job in itself. It's really hard to add in that marketing, but it pays off if you're consistent with it. Just choose one or two of your favorite social media apps and post like crazy about your shows, your inventory you're getting in, a little bit about what your job is and your brand is, so you can really put your name out there. We've got social media, advertising yourself within the app just by hanging out and supporting other shows. This is a great question and it's one I see quite a bit. Why don't people want to share where they source their pallets? And the second one being, how do you go about finding liquidation pallets? I've been all over the place. I just barely got into pallets the past year, but there are people, resellers that have been in the game for 20 plus years. You can pair up with a brand, pair up with a dealer, and all these are made through connections from having experience and meeting people and putting yourself out there. A lot of resellers are hesitant to share that because they've worked so hard and put so many years of work into building to find those sources, researching for hours and hours. So I totally respect that. I also see the frustration of how hard it is. My biggest advice to all of you looking for liquidation pallets is to start out with looking up liquidation pallets near me. The reason I tell you to look locally first is because you're going to find a lot of online places, and one that can be super sketchy. A lot of scammers out there right now, and so you want to be careful with online purchases. You can find people locally that you can actually go to the place, make sure it's a real establishment beforehand. You can save a lot of money on shipping. I mean, if you don't have the car to go pick up a pallet, I totally understand. But if you can pick up the pallet yourself, you are going to save hundreds of dollars having a local pallet place instead of having it shipped to you anywhere up to $600, $700 to have a pallet shipped to you if it's not in the same state. Just so you guys know, if you ever see me as an ad for a pallet place, it is a scammer because I've never paired with any of these companies. I've caught people using my pallet haul video on their websites and scamming people. Tapping to a lot of resellers who are doing any type of pallet haul. So be careful. There were more questions I'm sure I missed in that chat that night. So if you have any questions on selling on Whatnot, I would love to make another video on this subject and answer them for you. So drop them in the comments below. If you guys don't know about the Whatnot app, you can sign up through the link in my description and get $15 to shop. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet. I will be making a video soon on all the equipment I use to stream. Thank you guys so much for supporting my channel. I will see you guys next time.